Hi, I'm Cynthia Marks. I head up the Holistic Psychoanalysis Foundation established by my late husband, Dr. Bernard Bale. Welcome to And Now Love. Bibi comes to us full of enthusiasm. Welcome, Bibi. She's creative, resourceful, smart, and curious. We are just getting to know one another, but I can clearly feel the warmth and love she exudes. I truly mean that. Bibi left Iran at the age of 17. She ended up studying at the University of Moscow and later earned an MBA at Harvard. Until 2009, Bibi was a journalist, a world traveler, and an executive. Looking for some other sort of satisfaction, she decided to hang up those diplomas and begin a new journey with the goal of helping others find inspiration and happiness. So here you are.
Thank you. What a beautiful introduction. Can you write it for me down?
Well, it's all true, I think. So there's so many things to talk about, and we're not going to get to all of it today.
No.
But I want to know how you ended up here. That's a giant question. How did you end up leaving Iran? I mean, it's sort of in a nutshell. You're growing up there. From the age of 1 to 17, you saw that country completely transform. And you lived in a situation with your parents that was pretty unique, I think, relative to the rest of the community. Tell us a little bit about all that.
Yes. It's a very open-ended question.
It is.
It's going to take the rest of the podcast. Thinking back, our perspective is different than living in that situation. Looking back, I think I was very sheltered in a very unique family. You don't wake up and think, oh, my parents are famous or my parents are this and that. Mm-hmm. No matter who you are, my parents are rich, my parents are poor, you know. Circumstances come and go and you realize certain things.
But your normal is your normal.
Exactly. Your normal is your normal. You don't have any idea that I really am growing up in a unique type of family, very intellectual. You know, my mom was an American learned designer, you know, then goes to Paris and works, you know, in the Dior studio. Then comes to Iran. My father was already famous at the time as a contemporary poet in a country known for poetry. Like there were 5 or 6 people starting this new contemporary poetry movement. But by the time my mom and my dad met, you know, she was very well established in her career. My dad was already famous. For their time, they married late. When I come along, you know, not only it's me, but I have an older sister who my parents adopted, which was also very weird. For Iran, for their times, you know, I mean, everything they did was so unconventional, okay? That I didn't understand at the time. Again, that's the normal. So it's the 3 of us, me, my brother, my older sister. My mom insists on putting us in a French school system, which creates really the first tension between my parents. My dad is like, no, she has to go to a normal school so she learns what our society is about, meet all sorts of people from all walks of life. My mom like, no, with your lifestyle, we're going to be in trouble. They have to learn other languages. We are going to become one day, you know, she saw the doomsday somehow.
She did, yeah. And there was nothing really publicized about that doomsday. She just was...
Yeah, my father was kind of always on the margin of being a dissident poet, was censored, certain jobs were not allowed for him, so there was that. So my mom is like, no, my kids have to be well-versed in languages. And it just so happened that between the 3 of us, I really loved languages. So not only I went to a French school, but I wanted to learn more, so Spanish. So learning was given to us freely, whereas other things that spoiling kids at that time for my peers were not easily thrown at us. They had the means to. My mom had my father, was a civil servant who always cared about his poetry mostly. But my mom, had a great career and great clothing. You know, I always say upstairs, downstairs. The upstairs of our house was like these ladies, and this back then, you know, we received the Vogue and Elle and fashion magazines, and downstairs all these revolutionaries would come in rooms filled with salons and talk about ideas and like dictatorship and this and that. And I was like, I always say, I don't know how I didn't end up, I am crazy, but you know.
But what do you do with a thirst for both of those? Am I upstairs? Am I downstairs?
That's
There's
it.
always something going on.
In third grade, the teacher said, you know, who do you know? Do you have that in America, who you want to become? You write an essay at
Yes.
who you want to become when you grow up. Yeah. They gave us that, and everybody wanted a doctor, engineer, astronomer was like the big thing at the time. And I literally wrote, I have a big dilemma. And they make you read that in front of the class. And I said, I had a dilemma upon which I reflected all week. I didn't know if I want to become Sophia Loren or Ernesto Che Guevara. The kids are looking at me. The teacher panicked, called my parents. It's like, she cannot say that name in school. You're going to get in trouble. And my father is like, yeah, genetically, you are not Loren and you are not Che Guevara. So I grew up like that, and we go through the national exams. The revolution happened. We stayed after the revolution. My parents being very idealist, thinking things are going to get better. Society is not going to get worse. It's going to get better.
That's what we all want
With
to
more
believe.
freedom.
So what did you see changing in your community or in Iran?
I'm an atheist, but I'm not anti-religion.
Mm-hmm.
If you said I'm religious, I'm like, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you. We saw the rise of religious fanaticism little by little. Oh, our big goal is to fight imperialism. Well, let's wear the veil. Like, no, it's not that. Oh, at school, all of a sudden things change. We're in an all-girl, I was in a co-ed school, and then I'm in an all-girl school, and French is bad now. We should learn just Arabic. Why? We're Iranians. Why should we learn Arabic?
And how old were you then, about?
I was 15, 16 when I switched all of a sudden from 5 to age 16. It's all French schooling with Persian in a school, and then now it's you go to the school literally at the end of your street, and you wear something. I would have arguments, you know, in the French schooling system, it's all about curiosity, or what they call étonnement. Étonnement is when you're like, oh, why this works the way it does? Why is this put like this? What is composition? What is the way? The more what you ask, the better it is.
So it's like a ramped up curiosity.
Yeah, very well said. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, the way you pray and the way you enter the bathroom is with your left leg. Or I'm like, madam, teacher, why we all wear the veil in a classroom where we are all girls? You say that it's not good for the eye of the man to glance upon your hair, but we are all women. You're asking too many questions. So my grade I was always a very good student. So everything 20 out of 20. And then they could not subtract anything from the facts at the time other than give you the discipline grade. I was 12 out of 20.
Oh.
And my mom said, like, what's the thing? And they said, oh, because she has so many questions, she drives people crazy. I want the American audience to hear this. Our religion teacher said one day, ladies, as of today, if your parents ask you to peel cucumbers or eggplants or zucchini, you should say no.
Oh my gosh.
You say, oh my gosh, honestly, it didn't even register with me. I go home and we debate. We are coming from a family where we debate. You know, some families were like telling my dad, oh, your kids have zero respect for you. They always talk. And my father liked that. So we're at lunch and I said, you know what, something happened. Like my mom never asked me to peel anything anyway, like because I was not into that. And I said, today our teacher said that you're at the age where if your parents ask you to peel vegetables like cucumbers and eggplants and stuff, you should not do it. My mom and dad were like I remember this. My dad like said, you know what, looked at my mom, it's like, Mary, you go to the school, get their stuff out. We can teach them at home, between the two of us. My mom said, between the two of us? Like, we don't have enough? We can teach her? No, I'll teach the other two.
Not this one.
They were like, what good does it do? And I'm like, what? My dad said, nothing, it's just something filthy they're thinking. So I go back to school and I ask my classmates, because they grew up in that system, and they're like, oh. But then we debated. I debated with people who came to our house and at the time thought, oh, this revolution is taking us forward. And my dad always let me debate with older leaders. He's like, tell them. I said, you know, what would you feel if you had this always around your head? You know, they're like, well, our issues are bigger right now. Our goals are big. Later in life, when, you know, I lived in the Soviet Union, I understood that everything has to be fought for right there and then. If you think that something veers off and it's wrong, it's wrong. Mm-hmm. So through experiences in life, we learned that. But then I started seeing the diminution of women in that country and where we are going.
And prior to this experience, well, that this sort of evolved to be, when you were 10 or 9, you didn't feel this oppression of women?
In our house, no.
But it was there in Iran?
I didn't see it with the eyes of an adult. I can see now other families of friends, like when they did that. Or in my household, my father always said, oh, democracy is killing me. You know, like whenever we did something or said something, it's like, oh, it's my doing. Yeah. You know, I really didn't feel it. I really never felt my mother is oppressed. I never felt me and my sister. If anything, the opposite. My aunt would say, why you make Manilis, my brother, to my mom? Like, why you make him wash his socks but not the girl? Says, because I don't want his future wife to say, your mom didn't teach you to that. My daughters, they can take care of themselves. So I didn't see it. Looking back, was it there? Yes.
Well, I guess so, because you mentioned that some of the girls in your girls' school, just when it came to the conversation about the cucumber, already knew that that was not an acceptable thing to do.
Whereas in French school, there was not per se sex education, but there were lots of foreigners from other countries, you know, including a lot of French kids. And yeah, we knew about sex. I personally did not experience it, but I saw, for example, somebody in there where you put your pencils and pencil box, and some pills like this numbered. And I said, what is that? He says, that's for contraception. And I'm like,
wow.
Yep, she has sex. Never did it occur to my mind that the cucumber story, and this is even taboo probably for me to say that as an Iranian woman.
I would imagine. And so would you say that? Do you feel that when you started this conversation about the cucumber and you knew that that is not an okay thing, do you second guess yourself or step over what you'd like to say and say, okay, do I really want to say this?
No, because I'm 58, I have a daughter, you know, who is 23. I just feel like everything, if we don't shame people on eating or on exercising, we're not shaming them for having a healthy sexual life.
Yeah.
Women in Iran, my grandma was married when she was 14. They came to ask for her hand. And I was listening to her. I said, Mama, like, how did you feel about that?
What did she say?
She said, I had a knot in my stomach. They said, tomorrow they're gonna, my father, you know, said to me, you're done, you're to be married. She's like, you cannot ask, you cannot question your parents. I said, so it's like, did you ask no questions? No, I asked my stepmom, like, what does he do? And they said he's a painter. And the only painter I had in my mind's eye was the guy who came twice a year and painted the house, and they looked terrible.
Oh, gosh.
She didn't even imagine he's a painter, you know, like fine arts. She said, I was lucky. The minute I saw him from behind the window, he looked very nice, beautiful.
Was he much older than her?
Yeah.
And did they remain married?
Yes, yeah, very. She said, you know, at the time, love was like that. We got used to each other, and he took care of me.
But that would be kind of unusual for it to fall into a really good place?
No, some people say that arranged marriages, I have my own opinion. Although my non-arranged marriage ended up in divorce, I have my opinion about arranged marriages, which, I mean, I could never do that.
So there was some amount, perhaps, of matchmaking on parents' parts to see if this could be...
The families are good, if, you know, they check out certain... But can you imagine the trauma of a 14-year-old?
Not at all. I just can't even. And to know, and maybe you spoke with her about this, that this is going to be a traumatic and scary experience, but on the other hand, to not really question it, right? I am supposed to go through this. That 14-year-old might not have the wherewithal to say, wait a minute, I've got some questions about this. It doesn't feel right. I mean, it didn't feel right, but you're not allowed to question it.
Oh, and then the lady who was supposed to take care of her said, you know, I will always be with you. We go to Tehran, I take care of you, you know, things like that. But talking of Bernard and his theory of the imprint in the womb, I didn't talk to my grandma like that because I was so young when we left each other for the last time. But if I had to talk to her now, it's like the imprint with the first time she got pregnant. She had the 16-year of age difference with my oldest uncle and 18 with my mom. I mean, they were like sisters.
Yeah.
My mom took care of her. To me, that world, that these people in Iran, they think about young brides, you know, they're like, I read the other day, an 8-year-old died of hemorrhaging, bleeding, because she was a child bride. Yeah, that society does not sit well, obviously, with someone like me, and with this generation, and with this uprising that we see.
Yes. So I want to get on to you moving out of Iran, but I have this question which is gnawing at me. I, from my perspective, want all women to feel like they have the same rights as every man.
Agency.
And I don't think all women feel like they deserve the same rights, and that could be because of this imprint, eons of mistreatment, a belief that matches that of their husband or the men around them. From my perspective, that's not healthy for women, individually or at large. But do we have the right, or how do we impose this better life on these people who already think their life is as it should be? Curious about that, because who am I to instill what I think is proper?
Education. I think education is the key. Empowerment, love.
And maybe it starts with love, because you can't convince someone to educate themselves.
Everything starts with love, because love makes us more curious. Love makes us more generous. Love makes us more open, courageous, willing to adapt and learn. Love, really love, hand in hand with education. A lot of time education goes with discipline and my way or the highway and this way. But love with education, I see in the younger generation, although they are like some of the most oppressed population I know in the world, in this system that's been in place for 45 years. Thanks to the internet, thanks to social media, thanks to what they see. There are a lot of bad stuff they see also. But they are more opening up, and by opening up, they are more curious to devour this new information, these new things. If channeled in the right way, I think they are learning. I mean, I am working with a lot of kids who now have been injured in Iran and they're out. A couple of them, I have bonded really well with them. One of them, thank God, after 2 years, just last week, this day, she got out out of Iran and out of Turkey and now into Germany.
And when you say injured, hurt because they've expressed an opinion that...
Bullets in their eyes, raped in the prison, injured by their parents, being given by arranged marriages, you know, in the most deprived regions of Iran, like Baluchistan. Even university, even the worst form of university we have in Iran, opened up her eye. I said, how did you come from this family to here? I mean, their journey. She said, you know what opened my eye? A stupid series on TV, which she's in Baluchistan, and you know the TV thing is in Tehran, the capital. And the parents said, oh, to their kid, oh, now that you have done your homework and you had dinner and you go brush your teeth and sleep good dreams. She's like, I was the personnel, I was the maid of my parents. The fact that the kids' preoccupation should be their homework and brushing their teeth opened up a new world to me. So I wanted that world. I mean, the bar is this low.
Yeah.
For her.
Yeah.
Goes to university, gets arrested, rapes in prison, touching. But working with them, I see, okay, the world, she knows so much. She's so bright. So I have a glimmer of hope in this darkness that I see. But I think they have to be injected with love.
So, and I think, according to Bernard, basically his work is to get us all to a place where we act from love. And once we are unencumbered by the trauma that was given to us even before birth, we can be that. We can be that love. We can operate from a place of truth about love. And I think that we can, at this point, we can only do it one individual at a time, like you are, and hope that hundreds of years from now, maybe we've improved as a society. But I mean, I think a lot of us look at this endeavor of trying to heal women's position in the world and think, oh my God, that's just an impossible task.
I have a question for you because, I mean, you know how I learned about Bernard's total accident, but why was he so attacked about this theory? Why it was so controversial? Why it's not more widespread? Why? I know it's because it's not a pill you take, but people go to therapists, people go seek therapeutic methods to heal themselves.
Yes, thank goodness.
So why his theory, which is so beautiful, was attacked?
I think on several different levels he was attacked. Meanwhile, he always had a thriving practice. So there was always a group of people who were interested in his methodology. For the longest time, he was treating his patients through basically a Freudian method, but ultimately discovered that he wasn't seeing success for his patients and he wasn't seeing success in his own treatment because he was always being treated. He was in supervision and was working with some of the world's most renowned therapists, which was fabulous. He had these great intellectual conversations with them, but he walked away thinking, well, that was a great intellectual conversation, but have I grown? No, haven't grown. And he became more and more disillusioned. And he sat back and said, I'm just going to forget everything. I'm just going to forget everything. My patients aren't getting better. I'm not getting better. And he...
How old was he when he came to that?
I think he was in his early 60s. I can't say for sure. So he just started talking with his patients and asking his patients to say, share their dreams. And he started writing down the information in their dreams. And after hundreds and hundreds of these interviews with his patients, he discovered that everybody was sort of coming to the same thing, that if you can figure out that your dream is a conduit to your unconscious, and in there lies the real you, and your dreams are providing that key, the set of keys for you to get there. Basically, they're saying, here's the trauma that you've had, and you keep dreaming about X, Y, and Z, and that X, Y, and Z those bits are trash in your barrel, so let's get rid of it. He discovered that not all of this happens when you're 3 or 4 years old. You come pre-packaged when you're born. You've already had to do things in a feeling way to create survival for yourself. You need to keep your mom safe. She doesn't need to worry about all the stress that she's put on you. You've decided to take this stress so that she's okay, so she can help you survive. That idea of having been imprinted by your experience with your mother in the womb, and once you are an infant, and then as you progress as a child, was not acceptable to his community, who was very much wrapped up in a Freudian method. They didn't want to go there. It just seemed too much. I mean, first you have to agree that there's an unconscious and that your unconscious is giving you messages. You have to agree that perhaps what you've been doing, the way you've been treating your patients, is not correct, or is just an adjunct, or that there's more. That's a lot to come to, and it's, you know, how scary is that? If I think about these things, am I going to lose my patients? How do you establish that completely new paradigm in a world that's so set and so conservative? Just didn't fly, and he tried and tried. He went to every conference. He was a professor at UCLA, and he was just shut down.
I can't believe that. That's the part about his life that his theory, I don't understand. Why it seems so, in a way, intuitive to some of us.
And to others, it's really scary. I mean,
because Freud was also controversial. Jung was controversial.
Yes.
I told you the other day, sometimes the zeitgeist or the tsunami is behind us and pushes us and our ideas forward, and sometimes it's in our face and it's early for the time.
I think so. And he wasn't able to accomplish what he wanted to in his lifetime.
How sad it was for him.
Oh, it was such a disappointment. And at the very end of his life, he said to me, if you can move this forward in some way, please do.
And that's what you're doing.
He didn't burden me with it. And it took me some time to come around to actually having the lights go off and the energy come, where I said, yes, let's do this. I mean,
see, love gives us courage. That's exactly what I said.
And that's all it is, because I'm not educated in this. I mean, I'm a lay person. I wasn't analyzed by this man, but I absorbed like a sponge everything that he had to offer, because he loved me so much and I loved him so much.
You were not trained by him?
No, no.
I didn't know that.
No, I am simply his wife and a giant sponge.
I dream every day. Is that normal? I dream and I remember
everybody does.
Every day, everything.
That's
and when
great.
I tell people, they're like, and some of them are scary because I have some scary dreams, but I seem like an outlier to people.
Well, and everybody dreams every day, every night, but most of us don't believe we do. Those of us who believe we do don't remember them often enough. And I think there are ways that those of us who don't remember can train ourselves to remember.
Okay.
But now what are we going to do with all this information? I mean, it's completely valuable, but we aren't trained ourselves to know what to do with our dreams. As far as I can see, the authority on this is Bernard. And we have this little group of people who know that this message that he wanted to share with the world is precious, and they're trying to move it forward. We've got some young therapists that are treating their patients with this methodology. But the reason we're here is to make that grow, whatever that means, even if it means as individuals we just become curious about our own dreams and write them down and truly believe that they are something to be respected and that there is information there that can help us grow.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Am I interviewing you?
I know, I'm so sorry. This is all about you.
No, it's great. I think it's fascinating. I'm sorry if I took you in a different direction.
But what's going to happen here is I can't always be interviewing this small group of people that know so much about Bernard. I want to interview people like you. You're so unique, and you have a gift that can be given to the world, and you're an example of living a life. Now, I'm not sure that you always felt this way. It seems like maybe you did. That comes from a place of feeling, that you know that the best path you can walk starts from a place of love. So you know that. And if we can help people understand that Bernard's work gets us there, then seeing what you're doing is nothing but
Not
motivation.
always. I cannot take such a huge credit, because although I grew up in my parents never told us what we should do. Even when we asked them, what do you think when I grow up I should do? They said, whatever you wish to do. My brother one time said he loved magic as a kid. He said, I want to be a magician. My dad said, become the best magician you can. And my mom would like, so much when you tell him this, he's going to take this and run with it. What, you want our son to work in the circus? Is like, however, because I was good at school, meaning good to the teachers, good to my parents. Then I became good to my bosses. Then I became a good employee. I became a good wife. I became a good, nobody's a good mother ever, because your kids make you feel like poop. But, because of all these things, at some age it's like, why, I fulfilled my duty to everyone. What do I want? What does Bibi want? What makes me happy? I mean, you go to school, I wanted to be a journalist, then certain things happen, certain things change. Life throws curveballs at you, so to speak. Then I said, okay, I work for the World Bank. Then my boss, again, I was a good employee. My boss is like, oh, you should get your MBA and you should go to Harvard. I'm like, Harvard Business School, why? I have a master's. Why should you? Oh, no. Trust me, in America, they respect you more. Okay, so because of him, you go and do. Then you come out, they're like, oh, you're so good. You should do marketing and okay, but is that what I really want? Then you do that. You excel at that. You're good at that. But is that, now you make money. And because you make money and you pay the mortgage and you pay the bills, so you're good. No, none of this matters. And then finally I said, for stress relief, I cook, and everybody loves my cooking. And what if I cooked for children and I taught them? And then adults come, and then everybody says, oh no, you want to become a cook? 16 years ago, you were vice president. Now they look at you as their maid or as their cook. They put all this, they inject their own beliefs and their fears into you. Right. And you have to fight with that. Again, the tsunami. Right now, everybody wants to be a cook on Instagram, like whatever. So you do that, and you're finally, little by little, one spoon at a time, one recipe at a time, you find yourself and you say, oh, I'm good at that and I like that. Then doesn't mean anything. At my age, you transform again. You change yourself. You don't have to be the best at it. You can be the happiest at it. And you do that. And you're like, you get divorced, you're like, oh, I'm never going to fall in love again because love is bullshit, But that's BS. If life is this energy given to us that is called life or chi or whatever, is in you for as long as you breathe, life is beautiful.
Yes. Tell us again what that says.
You really want to know that?
Yes.
آری آری زندگی زیباست، زندگی آتشگهی دیرنده پا برجاست، گر بیفروزیش رقص شعله‌اش در هر کران پیداست، ورنه خاموش است و خاموشی گناه ماست. Yes, life is beautiful. That's all it says. But it's a part of one of my father's epic poems written in one of the darkest points in his life and in Iran's history, about doesn't matter what happens. Your brother is in prison, your friends are getting executed, you live in extreme poverty. Life is beautiful. Life is an eternal bonfire seen from everywhere. If you feed it, it's for everyone to be seen. If not, it dies, and it's your responsibility that you didn't keep the fire alive. That spreads that message. I just tattooed. I'm not into tattooing. I'm not a Gen Zer. I'm not a millennial. I just, the last 2 years, this has been my constant. So I finally said, I'm going to have it tattooed as part of me because it's really good reminder.
It is, and it is part of you. I mean, you're living that life.
I'm trying, Cynthia. I don't want to, all of us, when we come to this podcast or social media, we have an alter ego that we want to show off to the world, that I am here now, I am better than you, and then you turn, you go behind the door, and you're like, life is not about that. I have plenty of things I've done badly that if given the chance, I will try to do better. That's the best thing I can do. I can feed a little bit of fire. I can be better. I can make amends with people. A year ago, I went to a family member or ex-family member. I said, you know, I want to invite you for lunch and I want you to sit in front of me and tell me why you think I'm an asshole.
Oh my goodness.
They didn't want to take that meeting, you know? So it's okay. I do what I have to do, and people, it's their responsibility if they want to live angry or they want to live happy. That's the best we can do. So we are not perfect, and we don't live in a perfect world, and we all have had childhood traumas. I am lucky enough to have learned that I have PTSD. You know, the day, I've done a lot of therapy, but the day my therapist said, oh, it was very funny. She didn't even say, oh, I am dying. No, she's like, oh, I'm billing, and like I put PTSD. I'm like, PTSD? Isn't that for soldiers and whatnot? It's like, no. It's for a kid who saw her father arrested at age 5 and her aunt at age 9 and at age 12 saw people coming and showing their torture marks. No, that's not.
That's
you can
PTSD.
think you have the best parents in the world.
Yes.
You were in the most secure womb or family or whatnot. No, it comes back to haunt you. You have to get rid of your anger, your traumas. Love.
Yes, but it is really something how much we, even I think unconsciously, protect our experiences, because whatever that is and all that trauma that you experienced, that was your experience. That was your normal. And if you speak to it, somebody else might say, oh my God, that's trauma. How are you even sitting before me? But we're so good at
resilient.
Yeah. And
we delete.
Yeah. But we can't just keep doing that, because we're just, perpetuating the issues, the war, the mistreatment, the poverty, all of that.
People resist. In your culture, less. In the American culture, going to a therapist or talking about it is like playing tennis. Mm-hmm. But in some cultures, it's so much taboo. It's like, I'm not crazy. I don't have any issues. Look at me, I make so much money. Look at me, I'm so gorgeous. Look at my wife and my pool and my house. Why do I need therapy?
We Americans are like that too.
Really?
I believe so, yes. I think there's just so much resistance to looking at oneself, to not saying that what you present to the world is not a presentation of the perfect life, of happiness. It's glowing on the outside. But open those doors.
Yeah, I mean, you see these postcards you guys send every year during Christmas. Everybody looks like the Ralph Lauren family.
Yes.
And wings like angels behind them.
Yes.
And then the next year they got divorced.
Mm-hmm. And all those ideas of this sort of perfect Thanksgiving dinner. And it's almost as if...
You're right, you have that too.
Yeah, it's almost as if for part of my life, I would keep that card over there and it's Thanksgiving, and go back to it and make sure I've got all those right elements in that photograph, thinking that I could just transfer that to my life. No. So I'm going to shift a little bit. So you ended up going to Moscow, and how old were you then?
Well, another trauma, because 5 years after the revolution, they came to arrest my father. We were at home, and he wasn't. And by the time he realizes that we are arrested, he's coming. And then they said, oh no, they're no longer here. They realize, they think that the person who drove my father didn't see the car that my uncle came with. Is like, oh, they're gone probably. And they left. He took my father to hide him somewhere. And they, guardians of the revolution, who were with us and we were under home arrest, they gave up and we went to my grandma's house. They sealed the house and everything. So a lifetime of memory behind those closed doors, and we go to my grandma, and my mom is masterminding our escape from Iran with smugglers. We are French educated, so we thought of going to France. The smugglers took us to Afghanistan instead of Pakistan, and there was war in '83 in Afghanistan. So we are there, and from there, it took us a long time and no hope to go anywhere near France. So they made us fake documents, Afghani documents, to send us as students, cadre, future cadre of their revolution, to Moscow. But lucky for us, the perestroika, or Gorbachev, came soon after we were there. Otherwise, I would have definitely been one of those who end up in the gulag because of my mouth.
Yeah.
And a country that we saw as growing up, oh my God, it's on the other side of the Caspian Sea. The things of the revolution, everybody has education, everybody has healthcare, everybody has a home. Good things are happening when people are treated as equal. And at Moscow State, a very intellectual, I must say, milieu, the School of Journalism, I learned Russian in a very accelerated method. I go to school, very different, from the way we dressed, coming from kind of like comfortable upper middle class to looking like a babushka. And we see everything around us. And then you look, again, as a curious child, I look at the places where the system are rotting, the termites are eating up, as easy as asking like, oh, how come we don't have things to eat, but like this kid and that kid, oh, their parents are diplomats and they have a special store. I'm like, special store? Like, yeah, although my Russian was not up to par to them, they really helped me. It was people think, oh, I was like starved. Yeah, it was a different lifestyle, but intellectually very stimulating. The kids would come when it got to like foreign literature. I was a bookworm, so they would ask me if we had to read Hermann Hesse. They would ask me about him, or if we had to do Balzac or Baudelaire or whatever was in the world literature, they would ask me questions and I would help them.
So you were the Cliff Notes.
Exactly. I was the cheat notes, exactly, the Cliff Notes. So they would then take me and introduce me. They're like, oh, let's go sneak into Bulgakov's house. And Bulgakov was forbidden in the Soviet Union. And we snuck in. Now it's the Bulgakov Museum.
Tell us what that means.
Well, Bulgakov was also a dissident, and his masterpiece was Master and Margarita. It's a love story, allegory of everything that happened, and he was forbidden. And they gave me a copy and they helped me read it, and they took me to these places or vernissages of artists underground. They took me. So this coincided, was really riding the wave. Gorbachev came to our school and gave a speech, like this whole thing. So it was amazing.
What a rich experience.
To have that journey as a journalist and then opening up of the Soviet Union and working. That was very powerful. Then I finish and I think, oh, now finally I go to France. But no, another setback. I can't go to France this time because I have a Afghani passport and France would not. So then one thing and another, and somebody says, go to him. I got an invitation for a wedding of a cousin, and I go with nothing, like literally nothing, because in Afghanistan, now the Mujahideen and the Taliban are coming to power. If I go back, they know that I'm not Afghani. What happens to us? I can't. My father said, Bibi, you have to get out of here. My mom got out of there, went to Vienna to her sister to get us out. There were glitches there. Anyway, long story short, by miracle and by me being me, like accidental, I'm like the Forrest Gump of life. Go to the American embassy with a terrible French accent. I say, I do not speak English very well. He's like, oh, you speak French? I say, oh, yeah, I speak French. He happened to speak French. I got a visa, a tourist visa to come here and stayed with my mom's family in Fairfax, Virginia. And my visa is about to expire and being deported. I filed for political asylum. I went to look for a job. I got a job at the World Bank. How I got that job is a whole Netflix series and where it got me. So, riding waves of life. And that was filled with trouble too. I mean, that was not the American dream as we see it in the movies.
And for example?
I mean, literally, my first apartment with a roommate, my first salary, I was doing slave work at odd hours. I was paid $600 a month. I had to get an apartment in Virginia with a roommate to pay $300, and the rest of the $300 was bus pass and the same bologna sandwich every day, and things like that.
And you were going into DC?
Yes.
Well, you were working for the World Bank then?
Not at the beginning, not when I got the $600.
I see.
Yeah, no, that led to that later, which was a lucky break. I went from 600 to 3,600 a month, you know, just.
That's a change in lifestyle.
Yeah, to what was it, 1992.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and you had these parents who sort of lived on the edge of what was typical, or maybe not even on the edge. I mean, didn't that give you kind of a good base or a strength to know that you could always accomplish something? I'm not even speaking financially, but you could find your way.
Yes, yes. Although the Afghanistan and Soviet Union, something I never had growing up was financial anxiety. That thing changed because in Soviet Union, for example, the first 3-4 days, nobody took care administratively. I didn't have anything to eat, you know, and then the value of money for the first time without my parents became very apparent to me, that you starve to death if you don't have money, or if you have 90 rubles a month and then you don't manage that, you know, things that kids
you don't
these
think
days
about.
are handicapped about.
Yes.
Yeah. So that gave me financial trauma, which I had actually therapy helped a lot with. But the love of parents, I think the security that love envelopes you as a child with is very important in that sense. That, yeah, whatever happens, you can overcome.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you're working from that place of love.
Yeah.
So you were here in Fairfax, and then you ultimately ended up with the World Bank, and then you went on to get your Harvard MBA. And by then, were you no longer working with the World Bank?
Yeah, my boss was like an amazing person and became my first mentor really in America. And he was going to leave to go to Indonesia or Singapore at the time, I think. And I was frustrated because I was so involved with the privatization in the Soviet Union that I saw the corruption and I saw the methodology used that really impoverished the good people I knew, because I would go monthly to the Soviet Union and back.
I see.
And I saw the methodology that at the time I didn't agree with.
So there was some amount of internal discomfort associated with the job you were doing?
Yes. And one thing I learned is if something goes against the grain, and this is my dad, bless his soul and his heart, he said, Bibi, when you go down a path, the first few steps is you, the rest is gravity takes you. Don't go there.
If only we could all recognize that.
Yeah, life is comfortable. They pay you. You fly business class. You fly first class. You're a 24-year-old. They treat you as a queen. You rub shoulders with Gorby and ministers. Don't fool yourself. My teachers were starved. My professors, good people, they were starving. Aww. I remember one time I went to visit them, and I had this, I mean, it was so humiliating for me even. I had to put $100 bills in envelopes, and when I said goodbye to them, to leave it on the table. So it was awful. Or how my siblings and my father lived there. I mean, yeah.
But even through that humiliation, it was probably still something you just internally had to do. I mean, to be able to help them on some level. When
I confided in my boss, I said, you know, I travel with people who on their expense report put their shaving cream because to be reimbursed. And then I cannot reconcile the two. She says, Bibi, you cannot change the system. You can just get yourself out of it. You know, if I stayed right now, I would have been a retired member of the World Bank. I would have been seen like, you know, some big deal with a good retirement. I couldn't. So he told me, you have to apply to business school. I said, business school? Why business school? Like, I have a master's degree. It's like, nobody gives a shit about Moscow State University. It's a great university. It truly is.
But here you are in the United States.
But here, you know, in 94, it's like, go just do it. You're smarter. You look at these a-holes you work with. You're smarter than them all. Just go do it. I said, but I don't have the money. He's like, have you heard of the Harvard endowment? I said, no, what is it? Obviously, I got a scholarship to go.
So then that took you, now you were out of the World Bank and you were moving on to?
Boston, Massachusetts, and started this school where everybody is super smart and so much smart.
Isn't that interesting how we just assume everyone else is smarter?
Yeah. No, well, I never assumed everybody is smarter. I didn't, honestly. And then I go to this school because my background, it's in the humanities, and they all came from this, they were interns or they did junior work at Goldman Sachs and BCG and McKinsey, and like they knew the answer to every case study, and I'm like, who are these people?
What are they talking about?
Oh, so I'm gonna fail. And it took me to a very steep learning curve. Because my family, if you ask them what is the stock market or what is profit and loss and statement of cash flow and stuff like that, it was like, another world. And I learned all of that, and I learned very fast. And I went, again, my life took a left turn on Albuquerque, and I just went, you know, and I became that, a marketing executive. And I didn't like that. I did that a few years. Good money, good salary, good career. I'm like, this is not for me. We raised the money. They're like, do you want to move to Los Angeles and do that from here? I said, no, I will not raise my kids in Los Angeles. One day I said, is that my purpose in life, to make other people, rich people richer and famous people more famous? And we had at the time my kids were little and we were having dinner, and I said, oh, these cucumbers and tomatoes are very special. I want you to first smell them and then eat them. And they were like, and I said, Ava, where do you think these tomatoes are grown? He said, in the supermarket.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's time for me to rethink all of this. Harvard Cooking Girl was born.
That's quite the moment. It's almost a message from the universe.
But that's how I pretty much, my journey is that.
Yeah.
I did 12 years of that. And it grew from kids to parents, from parents. Then I built the first corporate team building events around cooking in the world. The first corporate team building, breaking bread, companionship. The word companion is with bread, breaking bread. I did that around corporate. So from all over the world, they're now booking to come to Harvard Cooking Girl, bringing their teams. Then COVID happened. And COVID put a stop on everything.
How long did you have your Harvard
12
Cooking
years. It was the longest employment. It still is, because I'm in some sort doing that. Yeah. But the break was COVID. And for the first time, I work from home behind the computer. And I help a young entrepreneur, social change entrepreneur, who wanted to do what my dream always was, to democratizing giving, $1 at a time, everybody giving just $1 a month. It was called the Dollar Donation Club. And I helped him to launch that, to eradicate plastic from our oceans, you know, clean up the environment, do that.
And this was because you couldn't do what you had been doing for 12 years.
Just from home and meetings with people. Oh, Zoom meetings, that's not for me.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
The 12 years of your Harvard
Cooking Girl.
That was something that was satisfying to you.
Oh, very much so. I love the connection with people, the banter, the joy, you know, through cooking, teaching, mentoring so many students, like 500-600 people came under and went from all over the world, people whose parents were like people from Yale and Princeton and Harvard and SDSU and UCL, you know, their parents were like, why are you doing this with her? You know, the love of it all, it was very gratifying. It was really the most gratifying thing. And then after COVID, I lost everything, obviously. I lost my studio. I had to donate all the equipment, everything I invested in. And then I started again from my kitchen and then renting a kitchen and doing stuff that I love to do. And
so this was different.
Yeah, in a different way, but still I do a lot of corporate. And then I started my retreat because I saw there is so much thirst for not being one person in one frame doing one thing. Because during COVID, I did this Hapitalist series with the minimalism and like living light and living really with less.
So capitalist, not capitalist.
Yeah, Hapitalist. You know, it's the best ism. How are you happy?
And does that have something to do with taking a moment to find happiness in something that you might have otherwise not even thought about or felt about? Like what does a capitalist do?
The biggest influence on my life is the influence of Japanese culture, you know, the ikigai, finding your happy place. Mm-hmm. Where is your happy place? Not happy in the way like, oh, I'm happy, I have weed, or I'm high, but happy in you do something, you obviously have to provide for yourself and your family. Mm-hmm. You have to be paid, you have to be happy, you have to be content with what you do. It has to be it has to have meaning, it has to have purpose. So ikigai, as I learned, ikigai, I started to, not teaching it, but preaching it. Mm-hmm. Part of that during COVID was making little videos of that on hapitalist.com. Bonsai, a walk, a coffee you take, a moment you take for yourself, a conversation like we have, doing all of these, and people are like, why don't you teach it to us all?
So in one of those experiences, let's say the bonsai video, are you explaining to your listeners or viewers how to find the happiness in that experience?
No, it's just mostly you don't even see me, you see my hands. Again, the Japanese thing, it's about negative space, not the things you say or show, the stuff in between the lines that you see. You know, to cultivate a bonsai, it's like cutting your own fingers so you can, you know, make the things grow. It's about the experience of doing something and cutting. Everything looks beautiful, but when you have negative space, it looks even more beautiful. Things like that, art therapy, why we do yoga or visualization is not because you have to show to someone you can do this.
Right, get in the most twisted position you possibly can.
Yeah.
It's taking it to a place where there's some amount of comfort, not physical comfort, but emotional comfort coming from it. So is that what ikigai is finding your path to, finding your place where there is emotional satisfaction?
Your good place in the world, if I have to make a translation of it, it's what speaks to me.
And that means being good to yourself as an individual, which then...
Actually, it's like a Venn diagram when they want to explain to you the ikigai. And then imagine a drop here that trickles. If you are good, it's the butterfly effect. If you are in your happy place, people around you are... I always say I want my friends to be happier than I, because when your friends are miserable, you're miserable. You know, or they're poor, you're miserable for them.
Oh, you're so selfish.
Yeah, I am.
And then...
Hygge.
Describe that to us.
It's a more northern Scandinavian idea of ikigai, not in the same sense. I lost a lot. I lost pretty much 90% of my, I don't want to call it my wealth, because my wealth is not defined by that, but I had to lose my house and I became a minimalist. So I just gave away all my books other than the books that were signed for me. Not because I read a book, it was before Mary Kondo, or what's her name?
Yes, the organization specialist.
I didn't even know her at the time, but 10, 12 years ago. So I got rid of a lot of things.
But what motivated you to get rid of your books?
Because I wanted to be happy to live with less.
I see.
And then see where I see my comfort. When I started getting rid of stuff, it was like having less weight on my shoulders too. The clothes you don't wear, the shoes you don't need, the books, you read the books, okay, it's here and here.
So could you really feel a change inside?
Oh, amazing. I live in people who judge you and don't know you, they're like, are you happy in a 2-bedroom house? I'm like, yeah, I use this room to sleep and this room to entertain and my kitchen and my office. I could live with less, honestly. I feel like this place, if I ended up here, I can live here very happy.
So when you transitioned to this, you had come from a place where you basically lost almost everything. When you lost almost everything, I think a lot of us would be panicking or coming from a place from fear, and maybe you did too. But how did you get yourself out of that, or were you just forced to because you had now all of these things that were completely different financially and you couldn't support the life that you had the way that you had?
Of course I'm scared, you know. Of course, when you have 2 kids in private colleges, when you lose your studio, you lose your house, you're hit with a lawsuit, you feel all of these things. I would be a liar if I said I didn't. But it's also the power of love, the love in your friendships, in your community that supports you when you supported them, the love of your companions. In the worst time in Afghanistan, my mom had a lot of anxiety about where my kids are going to end up. And my father always said, they're going to end up well. And my mom had a fight with him, said, how are you always so sure? And his answer was, because we are good people. And that to me was such an unrealistic answer. But now I remember that, because we are good people.
And look at what happened to you, partially because of that, of coming from good people. So this life that you live now, with less accoutrement, is different. It's more satisfying. Is it better? Are you happy?
I am happy when all the people I have unresolved issues with become happy with me or with themselves.
So that may mean that they become happy with themselves, but still unresolved with you. That's got to be hard.
Yeah, because you have to learn that it's out of your control.
That's hard.
Yeah. That for me is hard. Do I have existential problems? Yes. Do I pose as somebody who is happy? I wake up in life and I'm like, I want that guy on the movie set. No. But I try to remember. People think I have too much empathy, but it helps. Too much empathy helps you, because when something happens, you put yourself in the shoes of the person who has lost a child, or the person who has lost a dear one, or...
And you have to do that in order to be coming from a place of love, really.
Exactly.
I don't even understand what too much empathy would be.
Some people say you get too invested, in other people's problems. You just want... I am a problem solver. I'm a little bit like men. I am not, my girlfriends, no, I'm not one of those girlfriends who you say, oh, this happened, I am going to say, oh, yeah, oh, I get it, oh.
Too bad.
I'm not like that. And it's bad because it irritates some people. I'm like, oh, let's do this. Let's have a plan. Let's do, what about this? What about you do this? And they don't want to hear that sometimes.
I see. But that is a sort of empathy.
I think it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We all have issues, but having, honestly, what I come to understand, by the fact that you have less, you have less to worry about.
Oh my gosh, what a relief that is. There aren't so many balls to hold in the air.
Yeah. I don't worry if I leave my door open, like if they come, what are they? Oh no, there are a couple of things I really like. They go back to my childhood, But like, what are they gonna steal? They're probably gonna leave something and go. And the more I live it, the more, like last week, I took the coffee, like my friend said, what's the poor coffee table did to you? I said, I don't know. I just got rid of the coffee table. I put a tatami flooring and, like cushions, and I like that. So the less you have, the less you want to have.
So you're sharing this, you've learned so much from living this way, with anybody who wants to pay attention. So how do we find out about you? You're still operating as the Hapitalist. Mm-hmm. And so if we Google you,
oh yeah,
you're there.
Well, I operate as the hapitalist.com. I operate at the as the Harvard Cooking Girl. I operate on Instagram as everybody. Ever since Instagram existed, I had maybe 3,000 followers. The next day I wake up, I have 40,000 followers.
Oh my goodness.
In like 90 days. Why? Because something somewhere I said that either did for someone, or I mean, people who don't believe in karma. Honestly, you do something and next thing you know, a friend like Bobby or Sia and coming and like, oh, we should do this, and you should do podcasts, you should do. I'm like, thank you very much. Thank you for. It's not soliciting, is that. And I hope I can operate one day as the best version of me.
Well, I think you have a lot to offer.
You think?
Oh, yes. And I think we need
to
say
that to my kids.
You could say that to my kids.
Okay. Well, let's talk to each other's children.
So you also are working on, I'm sure this is for small groups, because a retreat can really only be these small groups. But is that something new that you're doing?
Very new. I just want to have, it's an experiment for myself, to get 12 people.
Women only?
Women only. They don't know each other. They probably don't know me. I want to offer yoga. I want to offer curated talks about, I believe that the future is going to be ancestral. I think we're going to go back appreciating slow food, appreciating life with no cell phones, appreciating one-on-one conversations, appreciating the nature that feeds us, so that in every molecule we eat there is no microplastics. I believe we are going to get there.
I want to believe with you.
I want to believe that, yes.
I hope we don't climb up this hill and reach disaster before we get
Correct.
Back to...
Yeah, I hope the climate change is going to, we are going to help it. It's not going to resolve itself.
No, but we need situations like this where people believe
Correct.
this.
So I want to create these curated talks about these issues, but I want to blend it with food from the blue zones, yoga, visualization, sunbathing, art therapy, how I heal and soothe my soul and teach it to other people, how we make products that are good for our skin, but we can do it at the kitchen table, things like that. It may be an experiment, like the way I started Harvard Cooking Girl and go somewhere. It may fall flat on its face because people don't see any value in it.
Well, you're just starting this up, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm very curious to see how it goes. And so your plan is that during the course of a retreat, is it a one-day retreat?
1 day.
You'll go through several different...
Yes.
And your guests would then maybe recognize themselves in 2 or 3 or all of the events of the day and start to see a source of happiness or well-being or comfort. Obviously, those that are coming are certainly curious about improving some aspect of their lives.
It's my, there are people like Bernard, they go, leave us, and they dream that what they know in their bones is good. And sometimes, again, I go back, sometimes the zeitgeist is ready for it, and sometimes they're like, huh, what did she smoke?
Yeah, not ready. Put her aside. Well, I think you have so much to offer us, and I'm so grateful that you were here today, and I'm excited to talk to you more.
I want to learn more from you.
Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, no, there is no oh boy. That's the whole point of this.
So we're going to have more conversations with Bibi, so please join us again, and we look forward to having you comment and talk to us about what you think of And Now Love. Bye for now.
Thank you.